we will have the ability to ask some questions. If you have some questions, please post them in the chat. We won't unmute ourselves during the talk, otherwise we won't be able to hear. So you're welcome to post questions, and if Marianne is happy to answer them, she will. So Marianne has now been coined the oldest COVID survivor in Victoria. She is a survivor in every sense of the word.
I didn't even realize.
Yeah, a survivor in every sense of the word, really. Her attitude and her way of thinking and her humor in the most difficult of circumstances is so beautiful and so inspiring, and really one for us to all absorb and to take in at a time that we are now living through challenging times. And that sort of positivity and mindset and way of thinking, you know, Marianne was going through all sorts of effects of COVID just a few weeks ago, and she commented how beautiful the view was from hospital, and that's just a wonderful way and a wonderful outlook of living life, and we can learn so much, and we're privileged and honored to have you with us, Marianne, and we'll wish you again at the end, but we'll wish you at the get-go continued good health and continued life and living in the beautiful way that you are. You've given so much to the community through your work with WISO and Courage to Care and B'nai B'rith. You're an inspiration. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Karin, who is a wonderful woman in her own right. She's Marianne's niece. Karin will be asking the questions and leading the discussion. It will be much easier for her to converse with Marianne instead of me trying to communicate through a webcam. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Karin, and she can engage in conversation with her aunt. Karin's doing a wonderful job together with her husband, Tom, who's also with us today, with a very large background of Marianne. And they're doing a wonderful job of supporting Marianne during this time. Marianne is a very independent woman, but I know that she appreciates the support that she's receiving from Tom and Karin now. So Karin, this is over to you. And I should say, and I've put the details in the chat, that this is one of the wonderful ways that Elwood Shule has been engaging with the community. We've been doing many events and services and ways to connect during this time. We've gone virtual, and you're welcome to check out more of our programs and services on elwoodshule.org or on our Facebook page, easy to find. So without further ado, I'll mute myself and hand the mic over to Karin and Marianne. Thank you.
Thank you, Shmuel. Well, as has been mentioned, this is Marianne Schwarz, who is my aunt. Oh, my video went off. Okay, who is not only a Holocaust survivor, but also, as you are now aware, a survivor of COVID-19, which has spread throughout Victoria and killed, unfortunately, people a third of her age. And what makes her more remarkable is that she recently turned 98. You've been told many times that you're an extraordinary person, not only as a Holocaust survivor and all the terrible things that you went through, but you are now the oldest survivor of coronavirus in Victoria, possibly Australia as well. So you've been on Channel 7 News, Sunrise program, an article in the Jewish News and the Daily Mail, also live on J-Air last week, and that was also simulcast on Zoom, and the post by Maurice Klein on J-Air's Facebook page has had over 1,600 clicks. So you're now a bit of a celebrity. Did you ever dream there would be such an extraordinary response to your successful recovery and discharge from hospital?
Not ever in my faintest dream would I ever have thought to cause such a big thing. I had no intention, and I never would have thought that I'm in any way more exceptional than other people. I never expected anything like it. I don't know whether I should say lucky, but obviously I was lucky to survive it at my age.
So tell us a bit about how you were living before you contracted COVID, about your life at home.
Well, naturally, when you get older, you feel certain things. You're maybe a bit more tired than others. But I led a fairly normal life. I still do my shopping. I occasionally get help from Jewish Care helping me with my shopping, but very often in between, I do the shopping myself. I play table tennis twice a week. I play bridge at least 3 times a week. And this COVID virus unfortunately cut short all my most favorite activities.
Yeah, but as well as that, a few months ago, a while before things got serious with COVID, her audiologist told her that if she got an iPhone, she would be able to hear through her hearing aids. The iPhone.
Yeah, I've got an iPhone and I've got an iPad and I've got to learn a lot of tricks. And some of them are still a miracle to me and not easy.
Yeah.
But luckily I've got Karin to help me.
And it was wonderful while you were in hospital that you were able to FaceTime people so you could see their faces?
Yes, even now I am happy because we are bound to be at home, to get phone calls and FaceTime and FaceTime to be able to see the people I'm talking to. And it really gives me great.
How do you feel when you beat me at online Scrabble?
Well, I don't beat you very often.
But sometimes.
Because there are many words that I don't know that you use. I prefer to play Scrabble where I know all the words, but
and we played Scrabble on a board a couple of days ago, and
right.
And guess who won?
Not by much.
No,
not
3
by
points.
Much.
How did you? Just very briefly, how did you contract the virus?
I have a cleaning lady who comes to me every fortnight for the last 38 years or something like that. She is like a friend and she's wonderful. But on Tuesday, the 7th of July, she came to me and we cleaned together. I did the washing and she did other things and she hung up the washing for me and like the normal thing. And the next day, I heard that she did not feel very well. She went to her doctor and her doctor sent her for a test and she proved to be positive. And when Karin heard that, unfortunately, she came into my place. Otherwise, she would not have been in this exposed like that. But she took me, we both had a test. Luckily, she was negative and I was positive. And I was pretty sick. I had diarrhea and I had a fever and I have chronic bronchitis, but apart from that, it was really very, very bad. I felt pretty awful.
I think when you first went to hospital, you were not feeling that bad, but over the next few days, especially around day 9 or 10, that's when you were feeling very sick.
A lot worse, and I really started to feel really sick.
And she developed bacterial pneumonia.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I had pneumonia, and anyway,
How long were you in hospital for?
I think 4 weeks.
Exactly 4 weeks. So, however,
Yes.
she was feeling considerably better, I think, for about a week or so before she was
Yes,
discharged.
even before that, I started gradually to feel a bit better, although I still was coughing and not.
When you first went to hospital, how long did you think you would have to stay there?
I had not a faint.
No.
I didn't even think of it. I had no idea how long I will have to stay. But
Yeah.
I certainly didn't expect it to be that long.
So do you feel like a typical 98-year-old playing Scrabble, driving a car,
No,
Sudoku?
I realized that not all 98-year-olds are capable of doing that, probably. And I'm happy to be able to a certain extent, still look after myself and do things for myself. I'm still driving the car. And so I have a certain amount of freedom that many people of my age probably haven't got.
Yeah, that's great. Let's move away from coronavirus and just talk a little bit about your background. Where were you born?
I was born in Vienna in 1922, and I grew up in a middle-class family, not overly affluent, but we had everything. I mean, we were well-dressed and well-fed, and I don't think I was missing anything as a child.
So you talked a little bit about your life. Anything you can tell us about school or what your ambitions were?
Yes, I went in primary school. We were only 2 Jewish girls. Later on, I went to Marianne Schwarz. That was a secondary. Sorry?
The secondary school?
Yeah, secondary. Yes, but it was not a gymnasium, but it was a Real Schule. It was also, and I was happy. I enjoyed going to school, and we also were only 3 or 4. We were only 3 Jewish girls, I think, in my class.
Well, tell us about what about once a month from B'nai B'rith, we have a German speakers group just so people can get some practice. What did you do at the last meeting?
I told them a long poem that I still know by heart, and there are many poems that I still know by heart and never have the opportunity to tell anybody. So I took the opportunity.
What were your first experiences of the Anschluss?
The Anschluss, even the time before, was already very sensitive. We could feel that things were going to happen, and we knew. I remember very well the day of the Anschluss, and I heard when the president of the Prime Minister of Austria, when he said those last famous words, "God help Austria," because he knew that nothing good can come out of that.
Just briefly, what were your experiences on Kristallnacht?
Kristallnacht was we were sitting at home, I remember, and they came. I had one neighbor who took my mother's sewing machine and other things, and she returned them all to me after the war. They got, I insisted to bring them over to Australia, and they broke. They arrived. The sewing machine was broken at the time, but I wanted to. And I had a dentist who kept all my old photographs and the wedding photos of my parents and my grandparents and a lot of, and my childhood photos, which I still have only because he kept them for me and he returned them to me after the war. And well,
Okay, thanks for that. So many Holocaust survivors just went through one camp, but you went through 3 and also labor camps.
May I come back to,
yes, sure.
To the question before? Because not everybody was as, my mother had a friend, for instance, she was her closest friend. And the moment that Hitler came into Austria, she said, Grete, I cannot be your friend anymore, and I cannot talk to you anymore. And that happened too. And there was, in the cellar we had, he was a maker of mother of pearl buttons. He said, I take all your valuables down there, because they could see what, and he did not return. He refused that he ever took them, and he never returned them. And they were my uncle's possessions. He was ready to go over, to come to Australia. He was already packed, and he had the trunks in his place, but he never returned them. And my uncle had to come with a suitcase and just with a few things.
But at least he got out.
Yes.
Karen, sorry.
And he said,
yes, Paul.
A few people are saying that it's hard to see Marianne. Is there any way she can be a
I
little bit?
know. Look, what about, you sit on my chair. You try my chair. I'll move over. I don't know why, but somehow she's more she's clearer on, is that?
Yeah.
She's, I don't know if that's.
Is that better?
Yes, that's good.
Okay. All right. Okay. I don't know why, but she's always, even though the chairs are about the same height, she's always seems to be lower than me. So I know that you first went to Theresienstadt, then Auschwitz.
Yes. The time before we went to Theresienstadt was very difficult because people were taken out of their homes, and they went into a school which was sort of a gathering place before we were sent to other camps. But we didn't really know, but everybody was waiting when his time has come to be picked up and taken away. And my mother was a twin. Her twin sister was already taken in 1941, and she came to Lodz. Her husband went to Buchenwald, and they all didn't return, of course. And my grandmother, my mother and my father were taken to Theresienstadt in one transport. And I was there for 20 months.
And what did you do while you had a job? What was that?
Yes, I was nursing at first I was nursing old people. I was always nursing old people. When we came to Theresienstadt, we were up on the
Attic?
Dachboden.
Attic.
In the attic, yes. We were in the attic and people were dying like flies, and we didn't have any medication or anything to help people, really. It was really a very difficult time.
But then from there you were taken to Auschwitz?
After 20 months, and I was nursing first with the old people, and then later on I was working in a children's home and all sorts of things, but I was working while I was in Theresienstadt. When we came to, then came we were into cattle
Cars. Cattle cars?
trains.
Yeah, cattle.
Yes.
Carriages.
Yeah. We were sent to Auschwitz. And of course, that was terrible. And we had no idea where we were going, but there was just one little grill window, and somebody stood on somebody else to have a look. And we saw that we landed in Hamburg.
That was after That was after Auschwitz.
That was after
Yeah.
Auschwitz. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I missed out. Auschwitz, yes.
Okay, and when you arrived at Auschwitz, what happened when you arrived at Auschwitz after the selection? You got a tattoo.
Oh, yes, of course.
So you can show your very faded.
If you can. It is
right.
already.
There's the camera. Lift your arm up a bit more.
Yeah.
It's very hard to see.
It is hard to hear the blue.
Yeah.
That blue mark is my number. You can hardly see it because my skin is terrible now. And when I always said that'll go nice with an evening dress when I go dancing later on, when this is all over.
What sort of work did you do in the labor camps?
In Auschwitz, I did not work at all, but in the labor camps, we were clearing up the rubble from after bombardments, and we had to shift bricks and heavy girders, and we really worked very, very hard. It's unbelievable that we were capable of doing that with so little, with really very little food, and badly clothed, but we still did it, and we told each other jokes, and we tried to sing because we wanted to show them that they cannot defeat us, and that they can't kill our morale and our will to live and to be human beings and not just numbers.
From the labor camps, I believe you were taken to Bergen-Belsen.
That was a bad time, yes. My mother was sick. My mother had
erysipelas or impetigo? Erysipelas? It was a serious skin.
Yes, it was on her leg. She couldn't walk. She was only 45. I lost her when she was 45 after the liberation. And that was the worst that ever has happened to me, because I contracted typhus and I had a very high temperature. I was like in a delirium. I didn't know. And when I came to slowly, without medication, mind you, but when I came to, I never ever found my mother.
Yeah.
Yes.
because you were calling from her and they thought that you were just calling out in your delirium.
I was calling
she was actually
out
with you.
when they took me, when they tried in a makeshift from the army. When they tried to take me to a makeshift hospital, army barracks were made into hospitals to help the survivors. And I was looking for my mother. I couldn't find her anywhere, not amongst the life, not amongst the dead, not on a list. She must have died in oblivion somewhere.
So from there, where did you go from there?
Yes, while I was trying to recuperate from the typhus, there were doctors and there were people from the army who, first of all, they overfed us and our stomachs couldn't take it, and many people died because they got too much chocolate and things like that our stomach hasn't even seen heard of for a long time. They convinced me that I have got to go to Sweden. In Sweden, I'm going to recuperate. And I said, I'm not going to Sweden without my mother. I've got to find my mother. I didn't know that I had lost her. But in the end, I was persuaded, and I did go to Sweden. I came on a ship to Sweden, and they gave me a shower, a hot and cold shower in the open air. And I thought, if I'm not catching pneumonia this time, I'll never will. But obviously I did. And then I was in recuperation. Yes, in recuperations, and they fed me up with egg yolk and sugar and a lot of. They tried to put me back on my feet, and they managed to do so. Within 6 months, I was capable. They asked me whether I want to work, and I said, yes, of course I want to work. And what they knew I was a nurse before, so they put me into a TB hospital on a hill close to Göteborg, an hour from Göteborg, yes. And I worked there for 6 months before. In the meantime, I wrote many letters to find my family, and amongst them I found somebody to write our dentist who had all my photographs, and he got in contact with my husband. I knew my husband when I was a very young girl. I was only 14 and a half when I met him, but and he was first in Dachau, and he was in the French Foreign Legion, but eventually he was in the British Army in Italy, and this is when he got notified by his sister, who had come back from Theresienstadt, that I am alive and I am in Sweden. So he wrote a letter to me asking me to come back to Vienna, because he had started with his only surviving sister to be with her. And I said, no, I'm not going back to Vienna. I'm not going to put my foot into it.
So then why did you come to Australia?
My uncle Arnold, who is here, his daughter is my cousin, and she is very close to me. And anyway, I came to Australia when she was only 3 months old, and I stayed with them, and I was a nanny to a very well-known psychiatrist here, who he is now retired, but he's a grandfather, and I was looking after him when he was a baby. Anyway.
So you then chose to go back to Vienna.
Yes, I was here for about 2.5, nearly, maybe 2.5 to 3 years. I was his nanny, and then I was writing to my husband, whom I knew from before, but I hadn't seen him for 10 years. But in spite of that, I went out with boys here naturally. I was already 24 after all. And I did go out, but I did not find the person that I really would have liked to spend my life with. So I decided to go back to Vienna, and I married my husband.
How long were you in Vienna?
And we were in Vienna for nearly 3 years, and he had to promise me that we come back to Australia, and we did, together with my sister-in-law, who is Karin's mother, and we lived in Vienna, we came to Australia.
Okay. Now, what were you doing for your first few years in Australia after when you came back to Australia?
When I came back to Australia, I worked in a lingerie shop in Russell Street, and yes.
The camera's up there.
Oh, I see. I look at myself instead of the camera. Yes, I worked first in that shop for quite a long time, and afterwards I worked for a jewelry shop in Little Collins Street, Kleppner's jewelry. That was his parents' shop, but I've been friends with him for quite a long time.
Actually, just going back a little bit, how did you feel going back to Vienna so soon after the war?
I found it very difficult. It took me, I would say, at least 6 months to accept to be back in this country. But we had not a bad life. When I came back, he had a business, and we went out and we went dancing and we did what other young people do. And I got used to it, but I never accepted it really to be back in Vienna, and I had no intention ever to staying there.
So later in life, after you'd looked after me as a child, you took on a new profession. You studied and took on a new profession.
Oh yes, I was a welfare officer. I tried to have children. Unfortunately, I was not able to have any. I had miscarriages, but I was looking. In the meantime, Karin was born. No, not.
Yeah.
Yes, and Karin is, till today, Karin is, I feel for her like my daughter. She is the closest I have in my life. And well, and yes, and I was, when I lost all the children, and I could see there is no hope for me to have any, I started a welfare officer's course, and I became a welfare officer, and I worked for 15 years with government. I worked first for 1 year in Jewish care, which was social welfare at the time. And later on, I worked as a welfare officer for 15 years in children's home section, foster care and adoption, and in the end, and for 10 years in the children's court.
So you've been very active in B'nai B'rith.
I have. My husband used to be a fairly new member of the Freemasons in Vienna, and he wanted to become a Freemason here too, but he was considered, coming from Austria, as a enemy alien. So he found B'nai B'rith and he joined B'nai B'rith, and so did I. But at that time, for women, it was only an auxiliary. It was only for men, but gradually we were accepted as members of B'nai B'rith, and we became a chapter and later on units. And I've been a member in B'nai B'rith, I think, for
66.
since 1954.
And some of the things you did while you were as a member of B'nai B'rith.
Oh yes, I was very active in B'nai B'rith. I worked for the what you call it, the Children's Play Center, and for a lot of other, the Benevolence Committee. I was for years actually in the Benevolence Committee and looking for new, especially the Russian migrants. When the Russian migrants came, they needed a lot of help. And with B'nai B'rith, I was very, very active, and I enjoyed it. I still feel a very, very deep belonging to B'nai B'rith.
You've also been a survivor speaker for Courage to Care.
Oh yes, yes, and I was asked to talk as a survivor to the children, and I thought it was a very gratifying experience, and I got a lot of cards. I still have them all at home, of cards of children who wrote to me about my experience, which was very strange to them, for Australian children, of course.
And a little later this year, you're going to be awarded B'nai B'rith's highest recognition, the
Yes.
Menorah Award.
In spite of being active in B'nai B'rith, I still thought that I don't deserve it really to be, but I accept it gratefully, and I'm very honored that I'm.
Yeah. And one more thing, your relationship with Emmy Monash. What were you doing at Emmy Monash until very recently?
Oh yes, I was the bingo caller for. I was the bingo caller for Emmy Monash for quite a few years, and I enjoyed that too.
So I think that's the end of what I've got on my list.
Wow, is all I can say. First of all, Karin, thank you so much for facilitating.
You're welcome.
Marianne, you are the most amazing human being. How humbling, and what an honor to hear you bearing witness to your past, to hear of your harrowing experiences, and then at the very same time to hear of your resilience and your will to live, and to live so passionately and so giving and so positively. it's just incredible. It really, we put it on the flyer, and it's so absolutely true that you really epitomize the triumph of the human spirit. And I think we all need to be able to take a little bit of Marianne from today with us. Not to dismiss or to discount the challenges that we're all experiencing today, but to know what you went through, and then for you to sit here in front of us, just having celebrated your 98th birthday, and happy birthday and mazel tov, with such a beautiful smile on your face, and so positive, and an attitude which is incredible. I thank you for today.
Thank you.
You should be blessed with many more happy and healthy years to continue doing what you're doing.
It was funny on her birthday. Oh well, she was in hospital obviously on her birthday, and the nurse in charge said that allowed 2 people to come and visit her. And I came in. She was on the phone when I came into the room. And I was in full PPE. I had the goggles, the visor, the hair covering, the gown, the gloves, the shoe cover. She said, she was on the phone to someone. She said, just, I have to go. There's a doctor or nurse who's coming to see me.
I didn't recognize.
That's incredible. Marianne, are you happy to take a few questions? Some have put some questions in the I'll just wait for Karin.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Can you hear me, Marianne?
Yes.
Okay, one of the questions that somebody has asked is, what was going through your mind while you were in hospital recently?
Not the best things. I thought, to be truthful, if I could have died, I would have preferred it. Because what am I looking forward to at 98? But now, having such a lovely niece and nephew and people who really care for me.
Your cousin and Johnny, Sandra and John.
Yes, my cousin Sandra and John Seri, the psychiatrist I was his nanny, but even today, he is my best friend. He is one of my best friends. But all my other friends, I swear to you, are gone. Wow. I have the one or the other, but hardly anybody left of my previous circle of friends.
Wow.
There's been a request for you, this will be in German, but a request for you to recite a few lines of poetry.
Oh my God.
No? Silvesternacht?
That's too long.
No, a little bit, just a little bit, a few lines.
Would people understand?
I don't know, well, they probably won't. Okay, it's your choice.
It's pretty amazing.
There's another question that came through, Marianne, and if you're comfortable answering, can you share some of the memories of liberation?
My liberation,
yes.
Certainly. I was like in a delirium. And the girl who was lying next to me said, the boys over there, the British are here to liberate us. And I said, leave me alone. I did not believe it. I didn't believe it. But it happened. And they came with loudspeakers and that we are liberated. Yeah. My mother was still alive.
Mm. What about your father? When did he pass away?
My father was also a very resilient man. He broke his femur in Theresienstadt, and he recovered from it, and he was able to walk afterwards. And he was 19 years older than my mother. So he was already in his 60s when he broke his femur, but he came back and he was able to walk. It's unbelievable. But he went straight into the gas together with my grandmother. after, when we were taken from Auschwitz to the labor camps. I was in 3 labor camps in Germany, but they went straight into the gas.
Wow.
These were my worst experiences. They were worse than the COVID. They were worse than the COVID-19, I can assure you.
You didn't have the same view as you had from the 6th floor of the Gandel wing of Cabrini Hospital.
Yeah, that's the only thing I had. I had a lovely view, but I didn't feel like looking. I was not in the mood of looking at scenery at the time. Occasionally, the sunset was nice.
Marianne, thank you for sharing that with us. If there's something that you can tell us, is there a message that you can give us, wisdom that you can impart as we go through this difficult time in our lives?
Just love life. Hang on to it at all costs. That is what I've done. I always wanted to live until I'm not talking about my recent experience, but life is a very precious thing. And the will to live is enormous in any human being. That's all I have.
Thank you. Oh, there's so much there and lots to think about. Are there any other questions in the chat that anybody wants to ask? Marianne, do you have any? Somebody's just asked if you have any side effects from COVID.
I actually, tiredness maybe. I am more tired than I was before, but the symptoms are actually gone. I can't say that I have any more COVID symptoms left.
And you manage our stairs pretty well.
Yes, I love, but still, I used to move better before than now. That's for sure.
And she's going home on Monday, and Jewish Care is going to be providing support.
Hopefully.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know many have written comments to say thank you. We all appreciate it.
And do you want to show a picture of yours? This was...
Oh, this is my husband.
Oh.
This was my husband. That was his 70th birthday. And he was such a positive person. He loved life. And this picture really expresses his personality.
Wow. Well, I think with that, we can wish you and us all a Shana Tova. We're 4 weeks away from Rosh Hashanah.
Shana Tova.
And Marianne, usually we would have seen you at Elwood for Yiska. I'm not so sure that's going to happen this year, not because you're unable to, but sadly, we are unable to host. But I do hope that we will be able to see you in good health, together with the Karin and Tom and the extended family, in good health for many years to come. And wish you all the best, and all who have assembled today, and all who have joined today. I wish you and yours a Shana Tova Metuka, a good year and a sweet year, and most of all, a healthy year. Let's hang on to life, love life.
The same to everybody.
Amen.
And you can unmute yourselves. You're welcome to visit our website, elwoodshule.org, to learn more about what we have to offer. And it's been a pleasure having you all today. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Amazing lady.
Shana Tova to everybody.
Thank you.
Amazing lady.
Shana Tova. Thank you.
Marianne, somebody said you can come and play table tennis at Elwood Shule. You're more than welcome. Table set. when it's safe.
Would be lovely.
She'd need to, because I can't play. I can't hit a ball back.
All right. Have a wonderful afternoon. And
Thank you.
wish you all well. Shana tova to all.
Thank
Shana
you.
tova.
Thank you.